For me, Europe is something incredible. It's something that comes first to mind is peace, freedom, and connectivity.
I think I'm starting to feel European more and more, especially the last years, because as I said, I was born in the Netherlands, but I was raised in Belgium, and then now I had the opportunity to live for a while in Spain, and now I'm planning to go to live in Germany. And with the Erasmus projects now in Leuven, I'm the buddy of an Erasmus student from Hungary. So I think this really makes it possible to have this shared identity and to get to know each other, to speak the different languages. It's for me also really an added value to be able to feel European.
Mais je vais nuancer. Je suis belge au sein de l'Europe dans un projet. C'est-à-dire que dans mon cadre, je suis intéressé aux enjeux de sécurité et de défense et donc j'aimerais m'intégrer au sein de ce projet de défense européenne. Et donc je suis belge au sein d'un projet. Mais aussi par le passé, dans mon expérience, je me suis senti européen. C'est-à-dire que j'ai eu la chance de pouvoir aller faire un stage à l'OSCE à Vienne, de pouvoir travailler comme consultant dans une entreprise de services de sécurité et de défense à Dublin. Et donc, j'ai pu passer ces frontières sans problème. Et j'ai pu travailler sans gros problèmes administratifs en fait. Et donc, en tant que jeune, on ne se rend pas toujours compte, mais on a toujours connu ça, cette possibilité de mobilité. Et on a d'ailleurs une carte d'assurance européenne. Donc, en fait, tout est fait pour garantir cette mobilité et nous permettre de pouvoir travailler et d'aller dans n'importe quel pays de la zone euro. Donc c'est très intéressant et je pense qu'on a une réelle chance.
I think the European culture to me is very interesting because while you still have that diversity, you have a very rich backgrounds from all sorts of people, I still see like that identity, and yeah, I do identify with it a lot. You know, there's a lot of aspects to it that I think the togetherness, you know, and taking care of each other, and I think the fact that the EU came after the two world wars, and I think it carries the concept of that together we are better off. And I really share that value.
I think it's really powerful for Belgium and really useful for Belgium to be in the EU and for all the countries in the EU, so we can cooperate together, so we can facilitate each other development and that we can form a bigger bloc to deal with other parts of the world.
I speak 6 languages thanks to this opportunity here that I got from staying at the EU and becoming one of its citizens, and I definitely see it as a place of freedom, and you can move around, you can do what you want, and it's really, on that sense, it's for me, it means a lot. It also means my family also lives in different countries of Europe, and I also feel safe here.
Alors pour moi, l'Europe, c'est avant tout un continent qui a su surmonter des défis historiques et aussi surmonter des divergences culturelles et linguistiques pour bâtir un projet politique ambitieux et commun.
I do feel the impact of EU in my everyday life because I feel that without having the legal right to have all the rights that the citizens in Belgium have, I wouldn't have been here. I feel that the EU provided me to have this freedom, not only the freedom of movement, but also the freedom to work, to study without having to burden the documentation, the visas. I know that there's a complicated process for people who are not belonging to the EU, and I'm actually sad to hear that and to feel that a lot of my friends are experiencing it. But I'm also happy to know that the EU is providing these rights to its citizens, and we're actually more free to move within the EU. And I also feel it at work because I feel that I am surrounded by diverse European persons coming from different European countries, and I feel that if I wouldn't have been part of this community, I wouldn't have experienced so much diversity.
I think because I had the opportunity to grow up in Belgium, I was always surrounded by the European institutions, the international stakeholders, NGOs, and the policy making. And I think this is what makes it unique as such to feel European, and in my personal opinion, who I am today.
In the smaller things, like for example the fact that we can cross borders without any problem, I think now with the whole COVID situation, now that they have been closed for a while, we realize even more how easy it is always that we can just go and travel wherever we want inside the European Union. And then I think for myself also, I have this amazing ability of getting lost everywhere. So the fact that we can have like the mobile data and that we can use Google Maps for the same price is also very practical in my daily life.
The main way that the EU supports young people is by giving them an environment which is really stable, sort of stable economic situation, and this really allows young people to essentially do whatever they like and grow as people in whichever way they choose.
When it comes to European Union strategies on the youth unemployment, I see that European Union is focusing a lot about people who are 18 to 25 years old, people who are just entering job market and are starting their careers. This is very good step, but what I see will be more threatening to young people is the age group between 25 and 34, people who also are beginning their professional career in more serious regard, because this is the second financial crisis that they are facing within the 10 years of their life.
I've been lucky enough to have gone on Erasmus in Ireland. It was a great experience. It was something that I wanted to do when I started studying. It has enriched me, and it was also what pushed me to afterwards, after graduating, go work and live abroad, because it shows you different cultures and it shows you so much more about the world than if you would stay in the same country.
I think there are a lot of incentives, more than where I come from, for example. One of them that having studied here, I met a lot of people through the Erasmus program, which I think is really nice. I also found out that me as an international, I can still participate in the Erasmus program if I'm pursuing education here in Europe as well. And I think it's really just fantastic. I really love traveling. I really feel that as a person, as an individual, you learn a lot from getting in touch with other cultures, other sorts of people, other backgrounds, other histories, and I think the Erasmus program offers a lot of that. So.
I really like the initiatives that the EU has taken to support young people. But when I talk to my fellow Belgians, my fellow young people, I notice that almost none of them actually knows about those projects. So please make those projects more known, because I think they add so much value to each individual, but also to the EU as a whole.
In my experience, the European Union has set a few policies in place. Most recently, the Youth Guarantee, which was launched and actually just kind of like reaffirmed to help people with vocational training land jobs. But I think this is not enough, and I think we need to, in my opinion, support youth in larger capacity by making sure that youth is going after quality jobs. Youth is learning the skills they need to bridge that gap between their studies and the professional life.
Voilà, la jeunesse, c'est l'avenir de demain et il faut la protéger, cette jeunesse. Je pense que tous les jeunes Européens doivent avoir droit à des mêmes opportunités d'accès en termes d'emploi. Et donc ça se reflète par le fait d'avoir des stages de qualité et payés. Et je pense qu'en ce sens, ce que le Parlement européen a fait en octobre passé, c'est déjà un progrès très significatif en la matière.
So I think that the EU is doing a lot when it comes to climate change within the EU, but really this is a global problem, and I think that the EU could be doing more in helping developing nations sort of grow in a sustainable way and allow the people there to achieve a quality of life similar to those in the EU, but achieve it in a more sustainable way than was done here initially.
Right now, in my opinion, the rules that are implemented are about too far in the future. I believe that they should focus more on rules that have direct impact, because we're already late with the current state of the world. So yeah, I think that we should focus on more actions that have an impact right now.
Ik vind niet dat de Europese Unie voldoende doet voor het klimaatplan. Ik denk dat ze vooral momenteel een beetje aan de zijlijn staan en zeggen wat de landen moeten doen, maar niet echt opdringen of opleggen van dit moet er gebeuren. En de urgentie dat nodig is, vind ik niet dat wordt doorvertaald naar de kleinere landen. Ik denk ook dat de Europese Unie zeker meer kan doen op vlak van energiebeleid en vaak het energiebeleid zelf in handen kan nemen. Er zijn heel veel landen dat minder grondstof hebben, dat minder middelen hebben om energie te creëren of te verspreiden in het land. En ik denk dat er een veel beter samenwerkingsverband moet komen tussen deze landen. Als je bijvoorbeeld kijkt, België kan niet zomaar bijvoorbeeld een dam bouwen of dergelijke. En dat zijn middelen die andere landen wel hebben. Ik denk dat op dat vlak, op dat energiebeleid, dat het de landen zeker samen beter moeten samenwerken en dat de Europese Unie daar zeker een grote hand in kan hebben.
I do work in sustainability and I have seen the business approach towards the climate change, and I've seen that the efforts of the businesses is actually very much oriented towards that. But when I'm looking at the young people, for example in Belgium, I see how much they are doing to tackle this climate change. And I see that they are doing protests, they are doing initiatives, they are investing in their own projects. However, I haven't seen their voices heard enough at the European level. I don't know whether there are programs about them. Maybe they are in place, but maybe the fact that I haven't heard about them means that something happened at the visibility point of view. Maybe something happened in the communication strategy that made us not hear about them. I would be more happy to see a higher visibility and transparency for opportunities for young people to have their voices heard at EU level.
Et en ce qui concerne En ce qui concerne le changement climatique, je pense que l'Union européenne, elle fait avec les moyens qu'elle possède. Et donc oui, quand ce qu'elle fait, par exemple avec le Green Deal, elle prend en main le problème. Mais voilà, le gros souci, c'est que ce sont des beaux objectifs. Voilà, la neutralité carbone en 2050, c'est très beau, c'est magnifique, on a envie d'y croire. Donc moi, ça me donne beaucoup de motivation et beaucoup d'espoir. Mais l'Union européenne est toujours cantonnée aux objectifs, cantonnée aux beaux symboles, aux beaux objectifs, parce qu'on ne lui donne pas assez les armes pour se battre. Et donc je considère qu'avec les armes qu'elle possède, elle fait ce qu'elle peut avec ce qu'elle a.
I think for the European Union it's very important to fight for the human rights, and there are still some groups for whom the human rights are not entirely met. And this is something that we should keep on fighting for, especially for example, the refugees. And there are terrible things happen and they just shouldn't.
Et donc, à mon niveau personnel, par exemple, je suis actif dans un forum interculturel de ma commune de Woluwe-Saint-Lambert. Et donc, c'est un espace où on peut discuter et faire valoriser la diversité et les différentes nationalités de notre commune. Mais par exemple, à ce niveau-là, j'aimerais personnellement qu'on casse les barrières et qu'on permette justement aux Belges et aux non-Belges de travailler ensemble. Et ça, au niveau européen, on peut le transposer, on peut imaginer qu'il y a un forum où on peut partager les différents succès, les différentes manières d'intégrer les personnes étrangères pour que tout simplement, on ne considère pas que la nationalité est quelque chose qui compte, mais que la citoyenneté est vraiment la chose la plus importante au niveau européen.
I think there is still a lot of discrepancy between countries, even in the EU. There is an obvious difference between the richer countries and the less developed ones, in my opinion. Poverty exists in Belgium, but I think there are several EU countries whose citizens suffer even more from poverty. Belgium has a wide social security network that other countries might not have. And I think different aspects of equality still need a lot of improvement.
Ik ben van mening, we kunnen wel, omdat Engeland, of het Verenigd Koninkrijk wel in de EU heeft gezeten, dat we bepaalde dingen kunnen behouden voor mensen, zoals het feit dat we sneller paspoortcontrole aan de luchthaven kunnen doen, dus dat het wel vlotter verloopt om naar Engeland te gaan of voor de Britten om naar de EU te gaan. Maar voor de rest over handelsrelaties moeten we altijd eerst kijken, je bent Europa verlaten, dus we gaan eerst kijken naar Europa zelf en dan pas naar het Verenigd Koninkrijk. Dus we gaan onze handelsrelatie met de Verenigde Staten verbeteren. Ook al is dat ten koste van jullie. Dus ik vind wel dat ze mogen behandelen als een niet-member state, zoals alle andere landen. Maar met bepaalde dingen dat het nog altijd wel gemakkelijk blijft voor mensen om naar Londen te kunnen gaan of dit of dat, om daar te geraken.
Pouvait changer quelque chose dans l'Union européenne, je pense que ce serait la communication. Et ce serait pas le changer, mais plus le renforcer. Depuis quelques années, on voit que l'Europe communique de plus en plus sur les réseaux sociaux et donc touche de plus en plus de personnes. Mais quand je discute autour de moi, il y a beaucoup de gens qui ne connaissent pas ces enjeux, qui ne connaissent pas comment fonctionne l'Union européenne. Et même moi qui suis intéressé, j'ai parfois énormément de mal à tout comprendre parce que c'est large. L'Union européenne traite d'énormément de sujets. Et c'est bien ça l'important, c'est que ça traite de tout sujet, donc tout le monde doit être concerné. Donc je pense que l'Union européenne devrait renforcer sa communication directement aux citoyens et pas passer par des institutions ou par des États, pour être vraiment plus proche du citoyen, pour qu'ils se sentent considérés et qu'ils prennent part à ce projet qui est au sein de l'Union européenne.
I believe European Union grows stronger from crisis to crisis. It was proven in history of European Union that we are following from one crisis into another, and each time Europe becomes stronger and more united.